I usually talk about more esoteric subjects. Today I'm going to talk about something that I don't usually ever talk about. And a lot of you have said they don't know a lot about you because the introductions that you get from Charles and Mike and Bill and other people usually talk about um, the world, that I've been ordained by lots of different initiations. And I'm a Conchante of Guinea Yoruba, Odu Ifa from Haiti. That's Vodou. You say voodoo. And a Babalawo of Odu Ifa from Nigeria. And I have initiations to lots of different Native American paths. I lived in the Oglala Oyate and Pine Ridge and the Black Hills, and as well as in Big Sur with the Esalen people who still live in the mission there. But I've spent a lot of time with a lot of different people, and so people like to introduce me by the things I've done, but you don't know a lot about me. I actually am just living in Grand Rapids with my wife, and one of my children still lives at home. I have 6 others that have flown the coop, and I've got 2 grandchildren. My wife and I live with my mother-in-law, who's lived with us for the past 2 years, and she is going and has been going, we found out, for the last at least 10 years through dementia and Alzheimer's and cancer. And so it is a good thing, actually, that I haven't been speaking here. I've had to say no to a lot of different things because that has been such an adjustment in our lives. So we have had foster kids for the last several years, and they have flown the coop. And I have a kid in college who went down to Jackson, Mississippi, because he wanted to go to an HBCU. So we've got one left. And he wanted me to tell you that he's going to be starring in the Grand Rapids Civic Junior production of Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. And so this little quiet kid who just, every once in a while I would hear him hum, turns out he can sing. He didn't get it from me. But I say all of that because there has been lots and lots of things that have been going on in my life. And a lot of those things you would think to be hard things, challenging things, emotional things, and they are really. But I find myself more affected by that outside world. And so the last month has been particularly challenging about the outside world. And I don't want to get into politics and, I don't want to harsh your mellow here, but can I get a raise of hands? Has the stuff going on in the world, no matter who you are or what you believe, has that harshed your mellow? Yes? Anybody? Anybody's mellow not harshed? Yeah, I didn't think so. I want to talk about the day after, okay? Partially because I'm standing in front of it, and this is, I like visual aids. I'll get into that in a second. But this is the day after Valentine's Day. We celebrate things, and when our intention is on those things, we're usually pretty good about those things. It's the day after Valentine's Day. We celebrate love once a year, and then there's the day after. I'm fortunate in that I work from and at home with a wife I love dearly, and yesterday was actually much like every other day for us because we both love to cook and we love each other, and every day is Valentine's Day. I say that in both the Hallmark card sense and also in the historical sense of the Christian world and the history of Valentine's. Anybody know that? A lot of it has to do with ancient times. And in ancient times, Valentine's is set to be on the Ides of February. Okay, so for those of you who don't follow the pagan calendar from the Roman times, the Ides are the middle of the months. And so next month, we will beware the Ides of March, but nobody bewares the Ides of February. The month of February is dedicated to the goddess February and the god February, because the Romans changed it from a female to a male, because that's what patriarchs do. And they celebrated a pagan Ides, and so they called it the Lupercal. You might remember that. All you Shakespeare, I did thrice on the Lupercal, offer him a kingly crown. That's in the eulogy given by Mark Antony to Caesar. And this is the time of year when they used to go into the town square or actually through a specific street, and they would have a gauntlet and they would fashion a whip out of leather, and they'd go around chasing virgins and whipping them and claiming them, much like, well, we won't talk about politics. But at the time of the pagan Romans, it was a time that was used for what they considered to be love, which was the taking and the claiming of virgins. Most of us don't do that way anymore. Jesus himself on the Lupercal also fashioned a whip and went through the town. Oh, you don't have to move that. We're going to sing later. That makes it look like I'm part of the band. They let me sing with them today, by the way, and they are so good. I just, shout out to you guys. I think that we are good on the days of. I can go on and on about the pagan days, but my segue all the way around to saying what this is about this. I'm going to put this away here because this is just so that you'll have sympathy for me. I was feeling really good all month and looking really forward to. I'm turning 65 next week, and I'm looking really forward to it. And was feeling really healthy, and I go with my son every week, and I do Tai Chi, and I do Tai Chi fan work, and I'm feeling really like I'm feeling younger than I ever have. And so last week, I decided that I would tip the couch over and fix it and restuff our big leather couches. I already did the love seat. I laid down on the, on the coffee table, and I carefully tipped the couch over, and I did not hurt myself. And then I noticed that the feet have to be removed. And I said, no problem. The only thing I forgot to get is a tiny little Allen wrench, about this big, to unscrew the legs. So I thought, where's my Allen wrench? And I go downstairs, and on the stairs, there is my tool case, my beautiful plastic-covered Craftsman tool case that has 200 wrenches, crescent wrenches, ratchet wrenches, not wretched wrenches. They're not wretched, they're good, because Craftsman still will take your tools if you wreck them, but not if you lose them. And in that set, there were 2 tiny sets of Allen wrenches. So I reach up and I grab it, feeling young and healthy like I am, and I pulled it, and it was a lot heavier than I remembered it. It jerked me right down, and I'm on the stairs. I didn't fall, but I hurt my back. In fact, I hurt my back so bad that my doctor wants to see me on Monday if it still hurts. It still hurts. Um, I'm wearing this girdle not because it makes me look better, um, and I hope it does. I hope you didn't notice it. I hope you just thought, wow, he's been doing GLP-1s. I actually am, but only because I'm diabetic. The thing is that I had a moment, all right? And in that moment, I was filled with pain, but I was also filled with adrenaline, and I was also filled with, a certain amount of shame and embarrassment. Like, like usual, I look around to see if anybody saw me, as if anybody else can fit on the stairs to the basement. I think that I felt okay on that Monday. I finished fixing the couch. I restuffed it and I put new braces on it and I tightened up all the straps underneath. And boy, it feels really good to sleep on again. And then there was the day after. I couldn't walk the day after. And I couldn't walk the day after that. I think that there is a lot of things that go on that we don't know how to work with or deal with what happens after a tragedy happens, what happens to our hearts. And I say that because the ancients believed that the thing that happens to us that lifts us out of tragedy, that lifts us out of our pain, lifts us out of the things that keep us from just, rowing our boat gently down the stream and being merrily, is much like the things that happen after you have a physical injury. But it doesn't have to be physical. In fact, most of us can survive physical injuries. We're very adaptable. We like to say with physical things, we roll with the punches. But sometimes it's the metaphysical things that become really hard, particularly when those metaphysical things are things that happen to us from the outside world. A lot of us have spiritual and religious and metaphysical beliefs that allow us to heal ourselves from those things to do the day after. I want to talk about one thing in particular, partially because it's part of what I believe, but also partially because I think that we need a reset. I have a feeling that in the next few months, next few years, we're all going to need lots of resets. But I want to start with one really, really basic thing. The Egyptians practiced this to the point that they used to believe that the kings who died could come back to life again if the statues that we made of them could infuse, could be inspired, literally inspiration, to have the spirit blown into them, that they would come alive. And the new Pharaoh then would have to give the throne back. So what did he do? He went around and all the statues of the king, the Pharaoh, they broke their noses off. So a lot of people blame Napoleon for breaking the noses off of the statues. But when he got there, and he swore that this is true, all the Pharaoh's statues, except for the last living pharaohs from the New Kingdom, had their noses broken off. Why? Because they believed that the spirit, the soul, the Ka, needed to be filled with Jiao. By the way, my name is Jiao, so I really like that. The idea of filling the soul with breath is ancient. They believed that Isis, the queen, that means on the throne, is that she is the one, that the mother of God or the mothers of the gods, blew the breath in. And so that was, now, those who believed in Isis became the diaspora of Egypt. And so Isis then takes on lots and lots of other names. But in all of those traditions where she becomes whatever it is that the Greeks end up believing in, whatever it is that the Babylonians are believing in, whether it is archetypally the mother of the gods or the consort or the wife. In Christianity, in both Byzantia and in Rome, in the early Christian church, this was true too, except the Father and the Son becomes the Holy Ghost. That Trinity used to be the Father and the Mother and their Son. Something happened. Patriarchy. Along with that, though, we lost something. We didn't just lose the Holy Spirit, because now the Holy Spirit is the dove that hits your head and poof. But that's not how it went. Inspiration from the Holy Spirit, from the mother, was inspiration. She breathed life back into us. And that's how resurrection happened. That's what the pharaohs were afraid of. It is what the Greeks call pneuma. It's like when you get pneumonia, it's that your pneuma got messed up by liquid. The healing that you have happens metaphysically through the nose. Whether you practice yoga, whether you practice Tai Chi, whether you practice Chao, which is the ancient Egyptian, or the practices in my tradition, which is called Emimi, which basically means my breath. And Emi is the word for breath, but is also the Orisha of breath. So she is the goddess of breath itself that inspires into us and brings us back to life. And that's a metaphysical belief, but it's also a physical belief. Did you know that if you breathe in through your nose, and you're not a mouth breather like I am, you breathe in through your nose and you breathe slowly out of your nose, a whole bunch of things happen. Your breath gets warmed, but the taking in of the colder breath and the signal to warm your breath to 98.6 degrees before it gets into your lungs, especially when it's cold out like it has been, triggers your brain. The amygdala in your brain then signals the vagus nerve and a whole bunch of other things to happen. So if you have mast cell activation like I have, that triggers your stomach. The vagus nerve triggers your stomach to do all kinds of things because it thinks it's in trouble. If the dinosaur was chasing you, I say that as a paleontologist, so it's just a joke. In some churches, it's not. If I were being chased by the dinosaur, let's say I was being chased by the mammoth, that's probably more likely. If I'm being chased by the mammoth, I have to increase my breath because I need more oxygen. And I open my mouth and I start breathing with my mouth and I start breathing in cold air, and my amygdala sends adrenaline, and the adrenaline then goes to my heart, and all kinds of things happen because we've triggered a flight, freeze, or what is the other one? Fight, right. I never fight. A fight, flight, or freeze thing. What happens, though, the moment after? Did you know that the actual reaction in our brain emotionally to any trauma doesn't even last 90 seconds? What lasts longer than 90 seconds is our whole body holds on to all of the cortisol, all of the adrenaline, all of the everything. And then we relive that over and over and over again. We are great at running. We are great at fighting. We are great at freezing and doing nothing while the world comes down around us. Those three F's we're great at. What we're not great at is the day after. What we're not great at is the moment after. And if the physical follows the metaphysical, and it's not an if actually, it actually is true. If we breathe in through our nose, if we stop, if we reset, our body starts to release different chemicals. And another thing happens. Because did you know that the heart is not part of the vagus nerve system and is not part of the neural system? That the heart has its own neurology? That at the bottom of the heart, there is a whole bunch of neurons that are connected to each other, but not the nervous system. And they have a system that allows them to understand what the body is doing by getting signals from the lungs, from the stomach, and from the entire vagus nerve system that tells it that the emergency is over. And it's a whole bunch of things that start from the head to the heart. Were you listening to the song? So from the head to the heart, there are chemical things that start releasing. Once I'm okay, I start getting endorphins. I start getting serotonin. I start getting the feeling of release and relief that signals to my heart that it is okay to stop beating 5,000 beats per second. Maybe not that much per minute. All of those things happen without any connection to the nervous system. It's entirely based upon your heart getting chemicals that are pumping through your blood into the heart because it was sending out oxygen to your whole body to do all the things it needed to do. And now it's sending it to your heart. And those chemicals then trigger the neurons to beat slower, to beat smoother, to beat rhythmically, all of those things. And that then triggers your head. Because the neurons, the neurology, or what they call the intricate neurology of your heart, has the ability to broadcast 25 feet. Most of us have a heart that is within 25 feet of our head. So if you're one of those people, this ought to work for you. The ability to slow your heart, the ability to be gentle with your heart, the ability to change the physiology of your heart changes the chemicals that affect your head and go to the amygdala and go to the little tiny grain of rice that's the pineal gland or the pineal gland, depending on whether you've had Latin or not. And that releases the feel-good things in your body that block cortisol, that block all of the adrenaline and the things that had you feeling a certain way. Now, if you're still listening to the songs, if you think that all of that, if I breathe, that all the mammoths and dinosaurs that are chasing us will go away, that's not what happens. What happens is the next day, our ability to react to things in a way that considers the consequences, that looks at the next 7 generations, that understands the consequences of fighting or not fighting, of running or not running, of freezing or not freezing, to find the things that are what I think of as the fourth F, which is what is not a verb, but a noun. What is formidably transcendent? Sometimes you've got to fight the power. Sometimes you got to run like hell to live another day. Sometimes you got to just freeze and let it pass over you. All of those are choices. And some of us will make good choices, and we'll evolve the species to do the things and make the choices that we made. And some of us won't, and we will naturally select ourselves out of the gene pool. And, thank the goddess for that. I want to make right choices. I want to make good choices. I want to ask my wife to get me a back brace so I won't throw my back out in front of you and you'll have to call an ambulance. All of that, whether it's throwing your back out or going through a divorce, or perhaps your children are leaving, or perhaps you keep watching the news, or perhaps at 2 a.m. you're doom scrolling and your echo chamber is the worst one ever because you see everything and now you know everything. And what can you do in the dark with your phone? Because you are now over-adrenalized. I don't care what's going on with you. We're not going to fix the world right now, but I want you to do one thing. They know that the lowering of the carbon dioxide level in you happens because of two things. You stop breathing with your mouth. So all of you who have sleep apnea and snore, this is happening to you all night long. The ability to breathe through your nose and your left and your right nostril each do a different thing. But I'm going to just stick to one set of nostrils. We're going to use both of them. And this is the trick that the Chinese know, that the Egyptians know, and they still practice. It's a trick of early Christianity, and it's a trick that those who went through what we call Middle Passage, slavery, understand and know. I love in the last song that those guys picked. By the way, we don't sit around and talk to each other and plan all of this. Everything I'm talking about were in the 2 songs that you guys sang today. The heart knows because we breathe and because we hum. When you hear meditation and you hear Mani Padma, the constant consistency of breathing and humming teaches your heart that you are okay. Not the world, not your enemies, not anything. It teaches my Pentecostal self where this all came from.